Hi guys, this is What If Naruto Gained Immortality. Check out the Discord server. Joining the Discord server gives you perks such as being able to watch a video before it goes public, such as a new part to this fanfiction. You are also able to recommend fanfictions to me. It is a small community and I will be able to respond quickly. Let's begin with the story. Shikamaru kept a steady gaze on the scene in front of him. Two sound ninjas stood in front of what he knew was the sound base they had been assigned to. The two enemy ninja had their hands near their kunai pouch, ready for any incoming attack. If the first part of his plan was going to work, then he would need to actually try, though troublesome it would keep them alive and guarantee a successful mission. From his spot on the shadows he saw Lee approaching the ninja from their blind side. Time for the plan to take effect. Shadow Possession Jutsu, the Chunin muttered as shadows extended from around him and launched at the two unsuspecting sound ninja. He held the jutsu in place as Lee charged at the enemy ninja. The two sound ninja noticed that they could not move and began to struggle before they opened their mouths to alert the others, but before they could utter a single noise, a ferocious kick met their faces, instantly snapping their necks, before falling limply on the ground. The green-clad genin turned back to Shikamaru and gave him a thumbs up, showing everything was clear for the moment. Good job, Lee, praised Shikamaru as he got out of his hiding spot, followed by the rest of his team, Kiba and Shino. Part 2 of the plan will go into effect now. Remember to keep your heads up and walk in the shadows. Kiba hung his head with a loud sigh. And here I thought we were going to kick some ass, he complained with Akamaru barking in agreement. Can't we at least fight a few of them? It would be unwise to get into a meaningless fight, Shino advised in a calm voice. We're against the odds here. If we are located, then our mission will be put in jeopardy. He's right, and besides, when would I ever listen to a hasty suggestion like that? Shikamaru said in annoyance, gaining a glare from Kiba. We've been talking long enough, let's get moving. With that, Shikamaru entered the base, before being followed by his team. This is going to be a pain, he thought with a sigh before sharpening his eyes. He had to be on his toes now, and it wasn't the time to be lazy, it was the time to make sure his team succeeded. Naruto walked through Orochimaru's base with a sharpened gaze. His team walked behind him with uneasy expressions, save for Neji, who had his Byakugan active on Naruto's suggestion. It was a typical base with the same snake pattern on the floor and walls, apparently made in the same maze-like way. Overall it looked like an exact copy of the last base the blonde had been in. The only thing that made it different was the ceiling, since it hadn't been tempered with for fear of a cave-in, he assumed. Being made a Chunin and going through what he had made Naruto a lot more cautious than he had been at the beginning of his ninja career. Going into an enemy base without a plan was the last thing he would do, more so if his friends' lives were on the line. He had a clear plan on what to do and planned on leaving the base without too much trouble, but knowing his luck something would go wrong, which is why he was highly on the alert. He had not only been assigned to deal with this base, he still had to deal with another base right after this one. This meant that he didn't have much time to waste since he was on schedule. This will be far enough, Naruto whispered to his team as he stopped walking. The blonde turned to Neji and took a small scroll out of one of the pockets on his Chunin vest that contains some explosive tags. They're a little stronger than normal ones since I modified them, so you don't have to use too many. Neji nodded at the Chunin with a firm gaze. The blonde proceeded to give similar scrolls to the rest of his team before running a hand through his hair. Don't worry about them exploding after a set amount of time, they won't go off unless I use a hand sign, he explained. The clones that went ahead found a crossroads, so we'll separate for now. There are 3 different paths, Neji and I will go in an individual one while Choji and Ino go together. You'll be accompanied by a clone so that I know any of you get into any kind of trouble. Let's get going. The group agreed, though Ino a little reluctantly. She didn't like the idea of separating from Naruto in a place like this, but knew that it was for the mission. She gazed at the blonde and allowed a small smile to appear on her face. He had changed a lot from when she first met him. He was no longer the loud deadlast of the academy. She now realized that Irika hadn't lied when he told them that everything would change after they became ninja. The blonde was now a ninja who was serious about what he did, but still held that little spark of childlike mischief that she had grown fond of. He was really one of a kind. "We'll split up here," Naruto quietly announced. He turned to his team and gave them a grin, showing he had confidence in their abilities. "Remember to be careful and meet outside in 30 minutes. If you're not out by then, we'll come look for you. Let's go." With firm nods, the group split up, running through their respective halls. Naruto ran alone while everyone else was accompanied by a clone. They were all keen on being successful on their mission and planned on doing it without much problems. Team Shikamaru walked through a large room with mixed emotions. Shikamaru had a look of concentration on his face, Kiba looked impatient, Lee looked as if he was ready to fight, and Shino looked as calm as ever. It wasn't the most stable team, from all of the crashing personalities, but it would do since they were all shinobi and had to leave their differences behind. They were attaching explosive tags to the walls of the base as they walked. This was to destroy the base when they were done gathering research papers and to easily know the way to the exit. So far, most of the base had been tagged, but they had yet to find any research talking about the cursed seal of heaven. Footsteps echoed from the entryway that led to a hallway that stood on the opposite side of them, causing the group of ninja to stop dead on their tracks. Shikamaru motioned for the group to stay still as he thought of what to do. There was barely any light on the room, giving it enough light for him to control shadows freely. He would need to kill whoever was approaching before he alarmed other enemy ninja. The Chunin turned to his team with a hardened look on his face and gave them a firm nod. Shino nodded in understanding while Lee and Kiba got into their taijutsu stances. As the footsteps grew closer, Shikamaru got into his shadow possessions hand sign, Lee into his taijutsu stance, Akamaru jumped down from Kiba's head with a growl, and Shino gathered some of his bugs on his sleeves. A sound ninja could be seen from where Team Shikamaru stood. It was a man with a small beard on his jawed scarred face. He had an eye patch covering his right eye and short black slick hair. He wore white shinobi pants and a brown vest over a mesh shirt, showing many battle scars, and finally his sound headband hung loosely from his neck. The man crossed his arms and smirked at the group. "So you're the ones that have sneaking around here," he sneered. The group's eyes widened at the revelation. It wasn't possible for them to be spotted. They had stayed in the shadows all the time and hadn't made a single sound. There was no way that they could have been spotted. "I bet you're thinking." The man began with an amused expression on his face, "How did he see us, am I right?" Shikamaru frowned. "Whatever," he sighed out with a smirk making its way to his face, "I already have you." A shadow stretched from the lazy Chunin and latched itself to the man's. "Can't we just fight it out for once?" Kiba complained with a sigh. "Don't tell me we don't get to fight again?" The man's smirk grew before he slowly balled his right hand into a fist. "Don't worry, you will." The man began to flex his body, making Shikamaru wince and struggle to keep control on him. "Attack now!" Shikamaru ordered with a yell. Lee was the first one to charge at the ninja with his right fist held back, ready to strike at the man. As he ran, he suddenly felt his foot connect with a kind of switch before his eyes widened. A horde of kunai launched at Lee from one of the room's walls. The room was clearly full of traps. He quickly jumped away from the kunai, but one of them managed to stab into his left leg. A groan of pain escaped his lips as he landed on the floor. It had probably struck a nerve, meaning that he wouldn't be able to put up a fight. Bugs suddenly launched at the immobilized man, but before they could get close, Kiba charged at the man with a kunai on hand. "Don't!" Shikamaru exclaimed as his hold on the man finally gave out. The man smirked and charged at Kiba in an incredible speed. The Inuzuka brought up his kunai to meet the man on the clash, but didn't expect him to catch his fist before it got too close. A loud scream of pain echoed throughout the room as the man's fist met Kiba's face in a powerful punch that knocked the genin back a couple of feet. Before he could get away, the man took hold of Kiba's ankle and threw him against one of the room's walls in a show of pure strength. Kiba gasped in pain as his back made contact with the wall before falling to the floor with a groan. The man smirked at his work and charged at the semi-conscious teen, but his eyes widened when his body refused to move. He managed to move his head back to see Shikamaru's shadow latched onto his own. "I've gotten out once before. What makes you think I won't do it again?" the man pointed out in amusement. Shikamaru smirked. I didn't plan on holding you in place for more than a few seconds, he responded while struggling to keep his jutsu in place. You seem to have forgotten that I was also fighting, Shino said as he appeared next to the man with a cloud of bugs on his back. Now you'll see that it is unwise to underestimate an enemy. The bugs launched at the man and latched into his skin, making him cry in pain. Shino get Kiba, Shikamaru gasped out through pants, I'll take Lee. I know that your bugs won't hold up for long, so let's get going. There were no research papers, we're blowing this place down. Let's, Shino agreed as he ran to Kiba's fallen form. You okay? Shikamaru asked Lee once he approached him. Lee looked up at Shikamaru and grinned. I will be okay, but I don't think I'll be able to run as fast as I usually do, he said apologetically. The lazy genius nodded and the two moved to leave the room. Shino was waiting for them on the entryway with an unconscious Kiba on his shoulders. Shikamaru gave him a nod and the group ran out of the base, ignoring the cries of pain coming from the man. There, Ino happily said as she put an explosive tag on a wall. Choji and the Naruto clone had been setting up the explosive tags while looking for any kind of research. So far there was no sign of any documentation, though they had come across some rather disturbing experiments. Choji nodded. That's it for the tags, let's go back outside. The 30 minutes will be over soon, he suggested. Right, Ino agreed with a nod before turning to the Naruto clone. Any news on Naruto? The clone got a tick mark on his head and gritted his teeth. How many times do I have to tell you? I cannot see what the boss is seeing, he growled out. Fine. Ino snapped with a frown. Guys. Choji muttered as he pointed at the end of the hallway. Ino and the Naruto clone looked to where the genin was pointing and their eyes widened. In front of them stood a woman with a staff on her hands. The woman wore light blue shinobi pants with black ninja sandals. She had a red battle kimono on with a black belt holding it in place. She had mid-back black hair and dark black eyes with half of her face covered with a white mask. Oh, don't mind me, please continue. It's very entertaining anyway, the woman urged with amusement on her voice. What do we do? Choji whispered to the Naruto clone. We have to take her down, it responded with a frown on its face. I won't be able to fight much since I'll be out after one hit, but I'll try to distract her whenever I can. How cute, the woman mockingly said. Don't tell me you're whispering about a plan to kill me. Not at all, the Naruto clone responded with a bored look. We were just talking about the weather, missions, and average pay. A very calm conversation, don't you think? The woman shook her head and twirled the staff above her head. Let's see how calm you are with this. She brought the staff down on the ground. It was quiet for a second before the ground started to shake and rocks came out of the floor before launching at them. Body expansion jutsu. Choji exclaimed as he stood in front of the two blondes and grew in size until he covered most of the hall. Rocks embedded themselves to his back, causing him to wince in pain, before he began to shrink back to his normal size and kneel on the floor with pain written all over his face. Choji! Ino and the Naruto clone exclaimed in worry as they kneeled over the genin. Choji managed to throw them a small grin. Don't worry, I'll be fine, he assured. Just take her down for me, will you? You got it, the clone said with a grin. Interesting, the woman said with a frown on her face. He was able to expand his body. Is that a type of bloodline? We don't have to tell you anything, the clone said with a frown. You'll pay for hurting Choji. And what will you do about it? The woman asked as she licked her lips in anticipation of a fight. This! Ino exclaimed as she put a hand around her lips and fired several bullets of water. The woman's eyes narrowed and brought her staff up. As if in a dance, the woman twirled and ducked through the water bullets before using her staff to hit the last balls of water. That was refreshing, she said with a smirk. Ino, remember to keep calm, the clone said with a serious look on its face. You won't be able to find her weaknesses if your head is clouded. Right, Ino said with a nod before putting a hand to her lips. Again with that jutsu, the woman asked with a smirk. Receiving no answer, the woman sighed before holding her staff up. Very well. I'll just take them down again. Water style. Ino focused her water chakra and glared at the enemy kunoichi. Raging waves, a powerful stream of water shot from her mouth, taking the women by surprise. The stream of water struck the woman's chest before knocking her against a wall. Water style, liquid bullets. Ino continued as she fired water bullets at where the women had crashed. The force of the attacks created a small cloud of smoke, blocking the women from view. Let's get going, the clone ordered as it lifted Choji with a grunt and put him on its back. She's probably not down and this is not the best place to fight her in. Right, Ino said with a nod as she and the clone ran out of the base, leaving a very soaked and angry kunoichi. You will pay for this, the women growled out as she shakily stood up. Niji arrived to a large room that stood on the edge of the mountain since half of it wasn't covered. He had a clear view of the forest below and noticed that he had gone up a large distance. On his way to this place, he had found some notes on the cursed seal of heaven that he assumed would help whoever was researching it. There wasn't much information save for where it had come from, but he assumed that it would do. Quite a view, came a voice. Niji instantly activated his Byakugan and spotted a man sitting on the railing of the room with his arms crossed. Who are you? He asked as he dropped to his taijutsu stance. Who am I? The man asked himself with a sad smile on his tired face. The man had long grayish-black hair that flowed with the breeze of the room. He had tired black eyes that talked about years of experience and pain. The man wore a long white kimono with dark blue kimono pants covering most of his dark blue ninja sandals. We don't get names. Niji furrowed his eyebrows in confusion. What do you mean we? He asked in confusion. I mean the others that are forced to be here like myself, he explained with a tired smile before chuckling, but the funny thing is that we've lost the sight of it. Sight of what? Niji asked. He had no idea what the man was talking about, but he assumed that any kind of information would help. Sight of what kept us human and not lab rats, the man responded. Due to the things that have been done to us, we don't have most of our original mindset. Now we're only ghosts of our former selves that only live to carry out our orders, some more willingly than others. What orders might that be? Niji asked with his Byakugan active, noticing that the man was beginning to move. Why, to kill you, of course, the man calmly said with a gentle smile. Why else do you think I'm waiting for you here? Niji frowned. If that's the way it has to be, then so be it. With that, the genin charged at the man with chakra flaring through his fists. The man chuckled as he ran at Niji while bringing a hand to his side. The Hyuga watched the hand closely as he advanced on the man, but his eyes widened when he saw the man take out a large sword. The man swung the sword at Niji, but he managed to jump over the strike at the last minute. He sailed through the air and took out 2 kunai before throwing them at the man's head, wanting to end the fight before it escalated. The man looked at the incoming projectiles before bringing his sword up and knocking the kunai aside in a show of pure kenjutsu skill. Niji landed on the floor before jumping away from the man, deciding to fight defensively for now. He cursed himself. The sword had thrown him off and knew that it had been a mistake to have been so affected by a simple change on the fight. The man gave no rest and charged at Niji once more. He brought his sword back, preparing to strike, but he never saw the smirk appearing on Niji's face. 8 trigrams palm rotation, the Hyuga began to spin as chakra surrounded his body. The man's eyes widened before he was violently hit all over his body and launched away from the sphere Niji had created. The man landed in a painful thud and gasped in pain, feeling his old bones creak from the impact. He shakily stood up and looked at the youth in front of him. Some part of him believed that new generations were always stronger than the last, but that part of him was long gone. He only lived to follow his master's orders now, and that was what he was going to do. He began to take off his outfit. If he was to defeat the youth, then he would need to give it his all. Niji frowned as he watched the man rip his kimono off to reveal a mesh shirt and blue shinobi pants. The man then took out a liquid from one of his pockets and put it to his lips before taking a big gulp out of it. Violet blue chakra instantly flowed around the man, giving him a look of power. Behold my true power, the man declared with a smirk on his face, "I will take you down for my master." "I have no choice but to kill him," Neji concluded with a frown on his face. Whatever the man had done was getting dangerous and he still needed to make it out of the base in 30 minutes, "I'll have to go all out." Naruto frowned as he walked up a set of stairs. He really needed to find a way to control his clone's personalities. The clone he had sent with Neji was a talkative one that eventually led the Hyuga to drive a kunai through its head. The blonde knew that he would have done the same, but it was still a rather hasty thing to do. "Now I have to finish this up a lot faster," he thought with a frown as he made his way to a large door. It had a stone snake on it that was cold to the touch. The blonde opened the door to find himself in a giant room. It was circular and had no roof. It actually had a view of the sky that made him wonder if he was near the top of the mountain. "Shadow clone jutsu," he muttered as 5 clones appeared beside him, "you know what to do." "Yes boss / kiss my ass," said the clones as they got to work. Naruto's sweat dropped at one of the clones' comments but ignored it for now. He would have them put an explosive tag around the room so that when they went off most of the mountain's rocks would bury the room. He had not found anything on the cursed seal, but he hoped that somebody else had. Poof! Naruto's eyes widened as he took out his blade and twisted to his left, blocking a large sword with a loud clang. The blonde met eyes with a muscular man with long spiky brown hair and dark brown eyes. He had a long-sleeved white shirt with black shinobi pants. "You're pretty good kid," the man praised with a smirk, "though not good enough. I have a tradition where I only tell my name to anybody who I deem a challenge." "Do you think you'll be able to find out my name?" Naruto chuckled with a smirk. "When I'm through with you, you won't even remember your name." The blonde added chakra to his blade, causing the intertwined blades to catch sparks before Naruto's began to cut the bigger blade. The man frowned and jumped away from the blonde. "So you can add chakra to your blade," the man muttered with a smirk. He held up his sword and watched the large cut it had on the blade. The blonde was no pushover. "What of it?" spat Naruto as he ran through hand signs, wind style, devastation. Wind shot out of his mouth, crashing against the man with a violent gust of air. "Damn," the man muttered as he struggled to stand against the powerful wind. He began to lose his footing before being violently thrown away from the raw power from the wind. He crashed into a wall but suddenly turned to mud. "A clone?" Naruto asked himself with a gasp. "Correct," said the man behind him with his sword raised. He brought the sword down on the blonde and smirked when he saw it make contact. Poof! The man's eyes widened. "It was a clone," he gasped out in disbelief. "Correct," Naruto said behind the man as he stabbed a kunai to his back, making him scream in pain before kicking him away. "Now tell me what you know about the cursed seal of heaven." "Why would I do that?" the man asked with a smirk on his face as he took out the kunai from his back. "Why would I stop a fight like this? What the hell is wrong with you?" Naruto growled with a frown. The man didn't answer but charged at the blonde with his large 7-feet sword. He brought it down on the blonde, making him block with his blade, but he suddenly spun to his right and threw his sword in the air. The sword sailed through the air as the man spun behind Naruto. The blonde threw a punch at the man, but he simply took the hit without a wince. Naruto's eyes widened and threw another punch with the same result. "What is this guy made of?" The man smirked as he caught the blade and struck Naruto in the head with the blunt end of the sword, making him grit his teeth in pain. The man didn't let up and punched at Naruto's chest, but the blonde proved to be too fast and jumped over the kick only to be punched away by the man's left fist. Naruto fell to the floor but rolled with the fall and stood back up before launching at the man. He added chakra to his blade and swung at the man with his right fist. The man dodged the strike, but the blonde infused more chakra onto the blade and managed to cut the man on the ribs, making his smirk grow wider. "That's it," the man cheered Naruto on with a smirk as he threw a kick. Naruto moved with the blow to soften the impact but still winced from the force behind the blow. He then jumped away from the man and dropped into his taijutsu style. He had been training on implementing Asuma's blade to the Toad taijutsu style. The blonde assumed that it was time to see the results of that training since the Toad Taijutsu style was a lot faster than the one he used with Asuma's blade. Isamu, the man said with an exited smirk playing on his face. What? Naruto deadpanned with a frown. My name. The man began as he charged at Naruto with his blade extended. Naruto narrowed his eyes as infused chakra onto his blade and charged at the man. The two blades met in a loud clang, followed by sparks coming from the two blades grinding against each other. Light it up, Shikamaru ordered with a firm nod. He, Lee and Shino, with an unconscious Kiba on his back, stood outside of the base. A single explosive tag could be seen in the entrance, showing that part 2 of their plan had been accomplished, though there had been a setback since they didn't plan on being found. Understood, Shino calmly stated as he took out a kunai with an explosive tag wrapped around the handle. With a flick of his wrist, he sent the kunai flying. The kunai sailed through the air with a burning paper sound before crashing into the base's entrance. Boom! The explosive tag detonated in a large explosion that set off the rest of the tags around the base, creating a massive explosion that kicked up dust that clouded the area. Rocks, walls and chunks of metal could be seen crumbling down and sailing through the air. Let's get out of here, Shikamaru urgently said as he ran away from the massive explosion. Standing next to an exploding base hadn't been his brightest idea. He was followed by his team into an area they deemed as secure and waited for the aftermath of the explosion to die down in order for them to make sure that not even a small part of the base stood. Looks like it's OV. Shikamaru started but trailed off when he saw a small flicker of movement on the cloud of smoke. What's wrong? Shino asked in slight concern. Shikamaru frowned and took out a kunai. Watch yourselves, he ordered. Before Shino could ask what was going on, a figure jumped out of the smoke. Damn you, roared the figure as it landed in front of the team. Lee gasped when he saw that it was the man they had been fighting. If he survived an explosion like that, then they would be in trouble. Shikamaru was having similar thoughts but didn't voice them. He took in the appearance of the man and knew that maybe he wouldn't be too dangerous. The man was badly cut all over his body, he bled from several places and his eye patch had fallen off. He had his eye closed and black marks could be seen around it. Wait, the lazy Chunin stopped himself when he realized something. Why was he wearing an eye patch if his eye looks intact even though it's closed? He must be hiding something, but what? We can't fight here, Shino voiced. Kiba and Lee are still hurt, it would be best if we put them somewhere safe. Shikamaru nodded, without taking his eyes off the man. Get them to safety, I'll hold him off as long as it takes. Just try to be back soon, it would be too troublesome to die here, he said with a serious look on his face. I'll be back soon, Shino affirmed with a nod as he took hold of Lee and fled the area. You won't be going anywhere, the man roared before jumping after them. Oh no you don't, Shikamaru thought as his shadow stretched beneath his feet and launched at the man. The shadow made contact with the man and held him in place, shadow possession success. I'm really starting hate your damn jutsu, the man growled as he struggled to get free, forcing his body to move against the powerful hold. Damn it, Shikamaru cursed as the hold on the man began to loosen. It was taking every ounce of his strength and concentration to keep the jutsu active. His eyes widened when the man began to turn towards him in a slow pace. Soon their faces met and the man gave a smirk before opening his closed eye. Niji dodged a chakra-enhanced punch, watching with wide eyes as it broke part of the floor without making contact. Just how much chakra was the man using? The fist made contact with the floor, instantly creating a large crater that shook the entire room, before using his arm for support and throwing a kick at the unsuspecting Hyuga. The kick made contact with Niji's stomach with such strength that it blew him towards the room's wall with a loud crashing sound. Niji fell on the ground with a thud and gritted his teeth in pain. His stomach was in agonizing pain, his back had several cuts from the impact on the wall and he was struggling to breathe right from the terrible strike. I was careless, Niji thought as he got on his hands and knees. He bent his stomach slightly and felt a surge of pain go through his whole body. He began to cough violently before he vomited blood. "This is the power my master gave me," the man said with his mouth in a thin line. "You were wrong to have come here." "I can't go on," Neji thought as he gasped for air, kneeling next to a small pool of his own blood. Flashes of his team's faces entered his mind, remembering that he still needed to meet them in a few minutes. He had to win and meet his team after all. A Hyuga never broke his word. "I have to do this, I only need one attack to win," he thought as he began to stand, feeling his body protest against his wishes. He managed a kneeling position and shifted his weight to his left leg before pushing off of it, beginning to stand. The man watched as Neji stood and frowned, part of him telling him that he didn't want this. He shook his head. That part of him had died long ago and he only lived for his master now. If this kid entered his master's base, then he would have to die, simple as that. With a groan, Neji managed to stand on his 2 feet. He looked at the man in front of him and activated his Byakugan. He would keep his word. "I won't lose here," he thought in determination. "I have to meet my team." Neji took a deep breath as he walked towards the man. He analyzed the man's chakra coils and knew what he had to do. He broke into a run and took out a pair of kunai. He would need perfect accuracy if he was to do this. "Fool," the man muttered with an almost sad look on his old face. "Why must the young die?" The man's chakra swirled around him before he charged at Neji in an incredible speed. The Hyuga saw the man and spun to his right, now with one kunai on hand, before taking another one out of his pouch. The man didn't seem to register this and charged once more, only this time he used chakra to enhance his speed. In an instant the man appeared right in front of Neji with his fist held back, ready for a punch. Neji saw this coming and before the fist could make contact, he managed to block it with his hand and cut off the chakra being poured into it. The man's eyes widened when he saw the kid catch his punch before he used his left hand to punch him. Neji ducked under the punch and delivered a strong palm strike to the man's stomach, pushing him back enough to give him the time to jump away from him. A single kunai was on his hand before he took out another one. He inwardly smirked when he noted that the man hadn't noticed the lack of kunai. "Give up now, child, and I'll make your death painless," the man suggested with a hint of sympathy on his words. "You'll never beat a Hyuga," Neji retorted with a smirk as he threw a kunai at the man, but he easily dodged the projectile. The man frowned. "I gave you a chance, kid, but I still respect your pride," he admitted before charging at Neji. The Hyuga slipped into his taijutsu style and hardened his gaze. The man threw a punch, but it was easily knocked aside by the genin. Neji responded with a palm strike to the man's left bicep, making him grunt in pain. The man threw a kick, but the Hyuga blocked it with both of his hands, now with no kunai on hand. Chakra left the man's enhanced knee before he used his left hand to punch at Neji. The genin used the knee for leverage and jumped away from the man while taking out 2 kunai. Before Neji could land on the ground, the man launched at him once more. Neji saw the attack coming and threw the 2 kunai at the man, making him stop his run to dodge them before charging at him again. This small pause was enough for the Hyuga to land on the ground and duck under the punch that had been aimed at his head. The man kicked at Neji, but he managed to block it with both hands but couldn't stop the man's fist as it made contact with his chest, pushing him away with less strength than before. What?" the man gasped out when he noticed that his punch hadn't had the effect he desired. Neji smirked and pushed the man away with a well-placed kick to his chest. The man grunted in pain and staggered backwards. The kick had probably broken something. He looked at Neji with a frown on his face. He had done something to his body. Something that made him unable to pass chakra to his limbs, but he didn't know what. "You lose," Neji stated with a satisfied smirk on his face as he took a single kunai from his ninja pouch. The man noticed that the kunai had a kind of seal wrapped around the hilt and frowned in confusion. "Now I'll show you." Chakra began to swirl around Neji as a blue light emitted from the kunai, the power of the Hyuga. "We're almost there," the Naruto clone gasped out through pants. It was no easy feat to run with Choji on its back. The clone thanked the original Naruto for having trained in order to handle it. "Good," Ino agreed as the light at the end of the hallway got closer. They had been running away from the woman they had encountered earlier since it wasn't smart to fight her in a place with no much room. Suddenly there was an echo in the hallway, throwing everyone off. before the ground began to shake and pieces of the floor and walls began to break. "Let's get out of here," the clone exclaimed as it ran faster to the exit with Ino in tow. Ino turned back and saw the woman running towards them. She would need to fight her alone since Choji was hurt and the clone would dispel after one hit. "I'll handle her," she told her teammates. What?" the clone gasped out in surprise. "Don't worry, just get Choji to safety and I'll try to beat her," Ino assured with a serious look on her face. Don't worry about me, Ino," Choji said as he got off the clone's back, panting slightly. "I was only hit on my back, I'm still able to fight even though it hurt." "What?" the clone roared in rage. "You mean I was carrying you all this time, when you could have just walked?" "That's right," Choji said with a nod. "Damn you," the clone muttered with a clenched fist. "Enough of your comedy act," the woman snapped. "I'll kill you for your insolence." She brought her staff down, but before it could make contact with the ground it was knocked away by a water bullet. "Water style, raging waves," Ino exclaimed as she put a hand around her lips and shooting a powerful stream of water at the woman. The sound ninja saw this coming and jumped away from the attack, but was suddenly hit by a giant fist that threw her away from the two ninja and the clone. "Let's go," the clone ordered as they ran out of the base. "I'm going to kill those kids," the woman growled with hate on her visible eye. She brought her left hand to her mask and tore it off her face, unleashing a powerful purple chakra. Clang! The sound of metal on metal echoed through the large room. Naruto and Isamu locked blades with sparks coming from the power behind them. Wind chakra poured around the blonde's blade and it began to cut through the man's large sword. The man noticed this and used his free hand to slap Naruto away. The blonde was pushed away from the sound ninja and studied the man. Isamu would surely win at strength, but he still had the upper hand since his chakra-enhanced blade could overpower the man's bigger blade. The man's sword had a simple black hilt wrapped in black bandages. A red stone peeked out of the bandages matching the large red blade of the sword. The blade now had many cuts, but it would still hold from the looks of things. "You're a fun guy," Isamu admitted with a smirk on his face. He stabbed the sword into the ground and began to stretch his arms. "It's been a while since I fought someone who could put up a fight." "By the vest you wear I assume you're a chunin, correct?" "How do you know about ranks?" Naruto interrogated with a frown on his face. "Could it be that you were a ninja before?" Isamu smirked and put his right hand on the handle of his sword. "You're pretty sharp to have guessed that," he praised. "I was a ninja once upon a time, but I never really belonged there. My superiors often scolded me since I didn't believe in protecting the weak. I've always believed that a weak person is of no use. They might as well be dead. Lord Orochimaru believes this as well, which is why I follow him in the first place, but when the time comes I'll kill him and be the new leader of Sound." Naruto frowned. "You're a really screwed up person, did you know that?" he asked as he dropped into his taijutsu stance. Isamu only smirked before taking the sword out of the ground and charging at Naruto. The blonde infused chakra onto his blade and ran at the man. Both ninja brought their blades forward, but before they could make contact, the blonde sidestepped with a small jump before launching at the man once more. The sound ninja could do nothing as the blonde's blade cut through his right ribcage. Blood splattered out of the wound as Naruto kicked at the wound. The man cried in pain before swinging his sword at Naruto. The blonde saw the attack and managed to jump over it, but not without receiving a cut on his right leg. He twisted in the air and threw a smoke bomb at the man's face, causing Isamu to break into a fit of coughs as smoke filled the area, blocking Naruto from view. "Damn it!" Isamu cursed as he tried to find the blonde through the smoke. "Where did he go?" "I'm over here," came Naruto's voice from behind the man, making him turn around. "No, I'm here," his voice came again, but now from Isamu's right. The sound ninja looked around in confusion. How was the blonde moving so fast? "I'm here." "No, here." "I'm over here, you bastard." "You need to calm down." "What?" "I'm always calm." "Not you, him." "Me." "You idiot, I'm not even loud." "There's more than one?" Isamu asked himself, is he using clones? Soon the smoke was cleared from the area, revealing hundreds of Naruto clones surrounding him. Isamu gulped. From the looks of things they were solid clones and it would be dangerous to fight them all. How can you use so many? Isamu gasped in disbelief. We're one of a kind, the clones exclaimed. Get him, the original Naruto ordered from the wall. He stood it with his arms crossed. All right, they cheered as they launched at the man in a frenzy of punches and kicks. I have to get back to the others, Naruto thought as he watched his clones attack the man. I'm not sure if my clones will manage to finish him though. Suddenly a dark purple chakra erupted from the man, instantly dispelling all the clones that surrounded him. What the hell is that? Naruto asked himself as he watched the chakra illuminate the room. The sound ninja watched as blue chakra flared around Neji. The kunai he gripped on his right hand glowed a blue color before shooting a beam of light behind the man. He turned around to see that the light had enveloped one of the kunai the Hyuga had scattered across the room. A beam of light shot out of the discarded kunai and hit another kunai Neji had thrown. The man's eyes widened. Neji had planned this all along. He watched as one by one the 7 discarded kunai were enveloped and connected by a blue light. From the looks of things he was surrounded by the blue streams of light. He tried to move, but found that he couldn't. It was as if his body was being constricted. His eyes widened when the blue light turned a deep green color. Whatever it was wouldn't be good. It's a seal, Neji explained in a calm voice. This is one of the Hyuga's secret jutsu that were made with the aid of sealing. It's extremely hard to set one up, but its power makes up for that setback. It first pushes gravity against you from where the seals, or kunai in this case, are located, making it impossible for you to move since they're all pushing against you. How does this attack end? The man grimly asked. The chakra around the seals bursts in a high temperature that will kill a person on the spot, Neji informed with a serious expression on his face. You were indeed strong, but it seems as if I prevailed on this fight. The man could do nothing but stare at the young ninja in front of him. It was indeed true that the new generations were always better than the previous ones. Part of him felt glad to see such promising youth, while the other was ashamed at his inability to fulfill his master's wishes. I love you, Ganpa. The image of a young boy with jet black hair filled the man's thoughts, reminding him of his past life. Tears filled his old eyes, memories coming back to him. Memories of the old days that held his most painful and happy moments. Memories that he had thrown away when he had come to Orochimaru in an attempt to ease his pain. At least, I had a purpose back then. He glanced at Neji through teary eyes and smiled. I'm glad. I'll be able to see my grandson again. The green light enveloped the area where the man had been standing, lighting up the whole room from the burst of chakra. Neji watched the attack with a calm look. It had been his duty as a ninja to kill the man, and he had seen the look the man had before dying. It was the look of a man that was happy with his fate, as if he were glad to leave this world. The light died down, revealing that nothing remained of the man. Part of the floor had melted and the ground had a deep red glow from the high temperature of the attack. Neji gave one last glance at the area before turning to leave. His mission had been successful. Ino panted as she leaned against a tree. Next to her was Choji with a tired look on his face and the Naruto clone that kept a steady gaze on the base's entrance. There was no doubt that the woman would be coming, so it was best to rest as much as they could before fighting her again. The clone wouldn't need any rest since it was just a mass of chakra. She gazed at the clone and frowned. There was a cut on the clone's left leg and it looked kind of deep. A thought entered her mind and she gasped. Is Naruto okay? She asked the clone with a worried look. The clone sighed. I told you before, I can't see what he sees, it explained with an annoyed look. Then why is there a cut on your leg? Ino asked with a frown. The clone looked at its left leg and found a deep cut. He put some pressure on the cut and winced. What? What happened to me? It yelped. See, could it be that I'm the real one and yet I haven't noticed it? Am I insane now from the constant use of clones? Calm down, Ino said with a sigh. I'll just ask Naruto later. The clone looked a little agitated but nodded regardless. Ino, look! Choji exclaimed in shock as he pointed at the base. Ino quickly turned around to see a purple light coming from the entryway. What is that? Ino wondered out loud. A figure covered in purple chakra exited the base in a slow pace. Ino squinted her eyes to make out the figure, and her eyes widened when she noticed who it was. It was the same woman she had been fighting, but something was obviously off. The chakra died down to reveal the woman's new appearance. She now had darker skin, her fingernails had grown into claws, the left side of her face resembled a snake's head, her black hair was spikier, and a tail had grown out of her lower back. The woman's black eyes landed on Ino before smirking in amusement. She wouldn't go easy on the kids anymore. This looks bad, the clone muttered with a frown before facing the two genin. I'll try to land a hit on her. I'm probably going to get dispelled, so hit her when you see an opening. The boss will probably get here after he sees you're in trouble. Right, Choji agreed with a nod. The clone nodded at them with an affirmative smile before charging at the woman with its blade out. The sound ninja saw this and extended her right arm towards the clone. Purple chakra launched out of her hand, shooting towards the clone. The clone saw the chakra coming and jumped high in the air to avoid being hit. It then took out a kunai and launched it at the woman, but it was blown away by the intensity of the purple chakra. The woman jumped straight at the clone with her fist held back, concentrating the foul chakra onto her fist. She held a smirk on her face, but it left her face when she noticed the clone had a smirk of its own. The sound of burning paper came from the clone, and her eyes widened when she saw the exploding tag attached to the clone's vest. Boom! Ino watched as the clone exploded with a frown. No matter if it had been a clone exploding, she was still a little shaken about watching him die. She was broken out of her thoughts when she saw the woman falling to the ground. How? Choji gasped out in disbelief as he saw the woman flip on the air and land on her feet. She was in a bad condition, with the right side of her skin burned and most of her clothes tattered. You damned brats, the woman screeched in fury. The foul chakra swirled around her in a show of raw power. I will kill you for this. This is it, Choji, Ino muttered with a serious look on her face. We have to use our teamwork to win. Hopefully Naruto or Neji will get here to help us later. Right, Choji said with a frown on his face. Let's do this. Ino. Naruto thought as the clone's memories entered his mind. He watched Isamu in front of him with his greatly changed physical appearance. His shirt had been ripped off, his muscles had increased in size, his hair had turned a deep green, and finally his skin had turned a dark gray color. I have to end this fast or else Ino might get hurt. That woman was easily high Chunin level. Let's get round 2 started, Isamu announced with a smirk on his face. Naruto frowned and ran through hand signs. Wind style, devastation. Wind shot out of the blonde's mouth and hit the man dead on. Isamu didn't show any sign of struggle and charged at Naruto in a fast speed, making him wonder just how much his power had increased. The blonde watched as Isamu approached and infused chakra onto his blade. The sound ninja brought down his sword to meet the blonde's, but this time they stayed locked in place. Naruto's eyes narrowed at this. His advantage was now gone due to the man's new power. Using his left hand, the blonde charged up a wind ball and slammed it into the intertwined blades, causing Isamu's blade to snap in half. Isamu's eyes widened and screamed in pain when he felt Naruto's blade run through his torso. He tried to move away, but the blonde delivered a hard kick to his chest that made him fall to the ground with a thud. Shadow Clone Jutsu! Naruto exclaimed as clones filled the area. The army of clones jumped on top of the sound ninja before Naruto began to run out of the room. He didn't have time to fight the men. I have to get to Ino now. They won't be able to beat that woman alone, Naruto thought as he sped through the hallways of the base. As he ran, he made a few hand signs and held the ram seal in place. I'll only use the ones on that room. I don't want that guy to follow me. Have fun with this bastard, Naruto muttered as he used his chakra to activate the exploding tags he had left on the room. A Sharingan! Shikamaru thought in alarm as he stared at the man's opened eye. His hold on the man was instantly broken before he launched at the Chunin. The lazy genius took a kunai in hand and threw it at the man, smirking when he saw the man dodge. The man landed in another one of Shikamaru's shadow and was instantly immobilized. Damn it, the man roared in rage. He began to struggle, but the lazy Chunin was prepared for it now and was able to hold him in position. That wasn't a Sharingan, Shikamaru concluded as he went over thought on his head. The eye he had seen was red, but, unlike the real one, it had 3 small purple triangles around a triangular black pupil. But what was it, he asked himself. His power increased when he uncovered it. Could it be a type of bloodline I haven't heard about? Damn you, the man roared as the marks around his right eye began to expand around his face. Shikamaru winced as the man began to apply more force, making it harder to keep him in place. I'll kill you. Shikamaru struggled to keep control, applying more force on the hold with his hands shaking from the amount of chakra he was using. Damn it, he muttered with a grimace, if this keeps up I'll be out of chakra soon. Then let me assist you, came Shino's voice as he landed near Shikamaru, making the lazy Chunin sigh in relief. About time you showed up, Shikamaru joked as he kept his jutsu in place. Shino nodded before turning to the man. I'll take care of him, he muttered as he extended his right hand with bugs flying out of his sleeve. The bugs launched at the immobilized man and began to take his chakra away, making the man scream in pain. You can let him go now, Shino informed when he noticed that Shikamaru was still struggling to keep his jutsu in place. The lazy Chunin let his hold drop and watched as the man screamed in pain from the swarm of bugs, but those screams were silenced when bugs entered his mouth. My bugs will take away all of his chakra, it's over. Good, Shikamaru sighed out with a nod, this was getting way too troublesome. I won't die here, the bug-covered man roared as a vile dark purple chakra surrounded him. Almost instantly, the bugs fled from the man due to the horrible chakra. The man's appearance began to change into a more animalistic one. His skin turned a light gray, his hair turned white and his whole eye turned black with 4 small yellow triangles on the middle. What is that? Shikamaru muttered in shock through heavy breathing. This. The man began with a glare at the 2 ninja. The chakra died down, but the raw power coming from the man could still be felt. Is your end? In an instant the man appeared next to the 2 shocked ninja. A pair of purple arms came out of his stomach and struck both ninja on their chests. They were thrown away several feet, but before they could regain their footing, the man appeared next to them once more. Another pair of arms came out of his chest and took hold of the 2 ninja in a tight grip. I can't move, Shikamaru cursed as the arm that held him squeezed the life out of him. He could feel some ribs breaking from the tight grip but couldn't even make the slightest sound of discomfort. Only short gasps came out of his mouth. He threw a glance at Shino and noticed that he was on his same position. You're dead, the man stated in a deeper voice, smirking at the look of pain of his victims. Fong over Fong. The man couldn't react as 2 spinning blurs crashed against his side, making him drop his hold on the 2 ninja. He screamed in pain as he was blown away by the intensity of the attack and crashed through a tree. Kiba and Akamaru landed next to the 2 ninja with content looks on their faces. You didn't think I would actually lay down and let you do all the fighting, Kiba said with a smirk on his face. Shikamaru chuckled and shook his head. I can't believe I'm saying this, but I'm glad you're here, Kiba, he joked with a smirk on his face. Kiba chuckled in return before turning towards where the man had fallen. The man began to stand with blood dripping down his left arm. He glared at the 3 ninja and gritted his teeth. I'll kill you all, he growled as he began to move towards them but was suddenly dealt a powerful blow on the stomach by a green blur. He got the wind knocked out of him before he received a roundhouse kick to the face that sent him away. Lee stood in front of the man on his taijutsu stance. Lee? Shino asked in shock. When he had last seen him he didn't look too good and now he was standing in front of an enemy. Lee grinned. I could not let my teammates fight alone, he explained. If we're going to fight an enemy then we'll do it together. Shikamaru grinned. All right then, he watched as the man began to stand with fury on his face. A smirk made its way to the lazy Chunin's face. His whole team was together and it would be a lot easier to beat the man. Let's end this. Ino and Shoji stood in front of the angry Sound Ninja, her staff forgotten inside of the base. She had a look of pure fury on her face since she hadn't expected kids to give her too much trouble. It was a kind of relief to be able to feel something after all that she had been through, but she didn't care much, not anymore at least. Right now she would kill the brats that dared to, not only hurt her but to show her horrible face. She was only an experiment, but she still hated showing what was behind her mask. It reminded her that she was nothing but a tool. Choji. Ino whispered to her teammate, getting his attention, "How much chakra do you have left?" Choji looked thoughtful for a second before giving her a firm nod. "I have more than half right now since I haven't used a lot. How about you?" "I'm about the same as you," she responded with a small smile on her face. "We might be able to stall her long enough, so let's give it everything we have and don't let up." Choji chuckled. "You're really starting to act like Naruto," he observed with a grin on his face. Seeing the glare Ino was throwing at him, he added quickly, But that's not a bad thing." A chuckle broke the two ninja from their conversation. They both turned to the source to see the woman with a smirk on her face. "Oh, don't mind me, I was just thinking of ways to kill you," the sound ninja said in a deeper voice. "Should I play with you a little bit or just outright kill you?" "Let's go, Choji," Ino whispered to her friend as she ran through hand signs before putting a hand around her mouth, water style, raging waves. As soon as the shot of water escaped Ino's lips, Choji ran at the woman with his fist held back. The woman sidestepped the shot of water, but her eyes widened when a giant fist came her way. Using her tail, the woman knocked aside the punch and broke into Choji's defenses. The genin's eyes widened as the woman punched at his face, but before it could make contact she was knocked away by a couple of liquid bullets. "Did you forget about me?" Ino taunted with a smirk on her face. Choji put some distance between himself and the woman before throwing a glance at Ino. "Thanks for the save," he said with a grin. "You damned brat." The woman muttered with a glare as she walked towards them as if nothing had happened. "Did you really think that such a pitiful attack could hurt me?" Before anyone could react, she appeared next to Choji with a smirk on her face. "Die." The woman's tail quickly wrapped around Choji's neck, making him choke and gasp for air. "Choji!" Ino exclaimed in worry as she ran through hand signs, water style, raging waves. A shot of water came out of her mouth and launched at the woman in a fast speed. The woman simply smirked and took the attack as if it were nothing, making Ino gasp in disbelief. "Foolish girl," the sound ninja said with an amused smirk on her face, "I am invincible thanks to Lord Orochimaru." She tightened her grip around Choji's neck, making him struggle against the hold but to no avail. Choji was losing consciousness at this point and tried his hardest to find the slightest amount of air to breathe. A whistling sound echoed through the area. The woman looked to her right to see a kunai making its way to her. By the speed of the projectile she could tell that it would be capable of hurting her. With no other choice the woman let go of Choji and jumped away in order to avoid the kunai. Choji instantly gasped for breath as he landed on the ground and broke into a fit of coughs. His neck was already starting to bruise from the grip the woman had had around his neck. He turned to see his savior and gave a small smile when he saw Niji standing on a tree branch with a kunai on hand. His clothes were a bit tattered and light pants came out of his mouth, showing that he had been on a fight of his own. "Are you all right?" Ino asked as she ran to Choji's side. "I'm all right," Choji informed with a grin on his face. "I'll just need to rest for a little bit." "Sure, don't worry," Ino said with a nod as she turned to the woman, ready for round 2. "I'm glad I made it on time," Niji said in a calm voice. He looked at his teammates and inwardly frowned. They looked tired and in Choji's case badly hurt. Being on the Chunin exams with them had shown him that they were at high genin level. If the sound ninja was able to handle both of them at the same time, then she was probably around low or even high Chunin level, too much for even himself. "Another one?" the woman asked incredulously. "Just how many of you are there?" "No matter, I'll kill you regardless." "It won't be as easy as you think," Niji responded with a calm look. "I just defeated one of your colleagues by myself, do not take us lightly." The woman chuckled in amusement. "Fool, do not put me on the same page as the other fools." Only one person here has beaten me before, and I know for a fact it wasn't whoever you beat. Niji's eyes narrowed. And how do you know that? He asked in anger and a slight hint of worry. I don't see any other sound ninja around here. How do you know he isn't dead? Easy, the woman said with a smirk. If you had killed him, then I'd be dead by now. What are you talking about? Ino asked in confusion. Our master gave us each a set of different skills, the woman began. I, for example, am the fastest out of all 3 experiments on this base, while another is the strongest and the last one is the most skilled with any kind of weapon. Lord Orochimaru met with us and decided on who were the strongest out of the 3 of us. He chose me and another to be bearers of the curse mark, but under some circumstances mine mutated and turned me into this. So what you're telling us is that there is another sound ninja that ranks above you? Niji asked with a frown. That is correct, the woman affirmed. Lord Orochimaru gave us all a seal. If any of the other experiments die, then nothing happens, but if the most powerful experiment dies, then the seal activates and we explode into 1,000,000 pieces. What's the point of telling us this? Ino questioned with a frown on her face. The woman broke into a smirk as purple chakra flared around her. Because. She disappeared from sight in a cloud of smoke, making everyone look around in alarm. Niji activated his Byakugan and his eyes widened. The woman appeared right in front of him with her right fist held back. You won't live to tell anyone about it. She punched at Niji and hit him directly on the jaw with a loud pop. The Hyuga sailed through the air before crashing to the ground with a cry of pain. The woman didn't stop there and charged at Ino with a crazed look on her face. Ino quickly got into her family's hand sign and aimed at the woman. Mind destruction jutsu, she exclaimed as the woman stopped dead on her tracks. Ino managed a small smile when she saw that her jutsu had worked. She had panicked a little seeing the woman charge at her, but all was well in the end. Niji stood up shakily, nursing his sore jaw, and walked over to Ino. He raised a brow when he saw the woman standing up in front of Ino with a look of frustration on her face. What happened to her? She's under my jutsu, Ino replied through gritted teeth. She'll break out soon, so try to finish her before I lose my hold on her. Niji didn't need to be told twice and charged at the woman. 8 trigrams 64 palms, he exclaimed as he prepared to strike, but was suddenly knocked aside by a powerful punch before painfully crashing against a tree. Ino's eyes widened when she saw a Hulk-like man with gray skin and green hair. The woman saw the shock on the girl's eyes and struggled to get free. Ino felt her hold on the woman lessen until she finally broke free, much to Ino's dismay. What are you doing here? The woman snapped at the newly arrived man. The man smirked and turned towards the base. I met someone strong, he said, savoring the word. The idiot thought that I wouldn't escape an explosion he detonated, but he couldn't be more wrong. The woman growled at the man. Wait for the bastard then, but don't interrupt my fight. She clenched her fists. If you ever do that again, I'll kill you. The man smirked. You and I know that you won't do that. If I go down, then you're dead as well. He had a look of amusement as the woman kept on glaring at him. Ino and Shoji watched the exchange in worry. If what the woman had said was true, then he was the strongest of the experiments. The situation got a lot worse in only a few minutes. Niji groaned as he tried to sit up. He had crashed against the ground pretty hard and his back was letting him know that. He watched the 2 sound ninja with a frown. The woman was strong, but the man had completely slipped his detection. He was a Hyuga and someone managed to sneak up on him, but there was also some hope. Unlike his teammate, he knew who the man was talking about. It was obvious that they were the only group of ninja inside the base, so it was logical to assume that Naruto had been the one to fight the man. Get here soon, Naruto, Niji thought as he began to stand. He knew that they had no chance against both ninja, but maybe if the whole team fought together, then their chances would go up. Naruto was a Chunin of Konoha, probably the village with the highest standards when it comes to promotions. He himself was low Chunin level, while Ino and Shoji were high Genin level. They might just have a slight advantage. Isamu looked at the Genin with a frown. None of them looked strong. He wondered how they had given trouble to a sound ninja, much less one that was blessed with power from their master. He suddenly snapped his head towards the base, feeling a familiar chakra, and smirked, "He's here." Line break. Fong over Fong. Two spinning blurs launched at the sound ninja in perfect accuracy. "I won't fall for that twice," the man exclaimed as he watched the move with his improved eye. He easily dodged the attack with a jump before he spun in the air, avoiding a cloud of bugs. He landed on the ground and raised his right knee to meet Li's kick. He gritted his teeth when he felt the force behind the kick and used his right hand to punch the genin away. Li was knocked aside, but the man's eyes widened when he saw a shadow approaching him. He quickly jumped away from it only to be met with a cloud of bugs. Not missing a beat, the man threw a smoke bomb at the bugs, successfully blocking himself and his scent. He landed on the ground and gritted his teeth in anger. The kids were everywhere at once. It seemed impossible to get a good hit on them. Even with the power his master had given him, it would be hard to beat the group of kids. The unmistakable sound of an exploding tag reached the man's ear before he jumped away from where he had been standing. An explosion set off behind him, but he didn't have time to dwell on it since the green-clad ninja was charging at him once more. Li threw a right hook, but the man easily dodged the hit by leaning to his right. He continued with a kick, but the man tossed it aside as if he knew what was about to happen. Li continued to throw punch after punch, but none of them landed as the man seemed to dance around the strikes with ease. The man suddenly winced in pain and brought a hand to his right eye, giving Li the perfect opportunity to attack. He brought his fist to the man's face with great force, snapping his head to the side before he fell on the ground. The man tried to stand but found that he couldn't move. "That shadow again," he muttered with a frown on his face. "Exactly," Shikamaru said as he approached the man along with his team. They all had tired but determined looks on their faces, showing that they were ready to fight at any moment. "Now you're going to tell us what we want to know." The man chuckled. "What makes you think I will?" he asked with a smirk on his face. "Do you really believe that you've won? Don't make me laugh. I could break out of this hold any time I want." To prove his point, the man began to force his body to move, making Shikamaru wince and drop his hold. Having wasted most of his chakra, the lazy genius couldn't keep a firm hold on the man. The group watched as the man put some distance between them. They instantly dropped into their fighting stances and waited for the man to make a move. "You're all finished," the man stated with a smirk on his face. "What are you talking about?" Shikamaru asked with a frown on his face. The man pointed at his right eye. "This is one of my master's gifts, a new kind of bloodline that will give me more power," he exclaimed. "This eye is one of the attempts my master has made in order to make a better version of the Sharingan. My eye is one of many, but the best of them all. It has no name yet, but it will. My eye is superior to any other. This eye will be the last thing you see before dying." "Fool," Shikamaru thought as he watched Li and Kiba charge at the man. Their superior taijutsu drove the man back, even if he used his superior eye. There was no way that the man's eye had the same effects as the Sharingan. If it did, then why didn't Orochimaru have one himself? From what he heard from Jonins and Shunins, Orochimaru wanted a Sharingan more than anything. Li threw punch after punch at the man, with Kiba doing the same. The man was having trouble reading their moves and felt a burning pain coming from his eye. He didn't know what was happening with it. His master had told him that it was perfect. The man doubled over when he received a hard punch on his abdomen followed by a kick to his face. The man was knocked away and put a hand to his burning eye. What was happening? Bugs suddenly flooded his vision and he noticed that he had been led to a trap. Since it worked before, the man released his foul purple chakra and smirked when he saw the bugs fly away from him. He tried to move away but found that he had been possessed by the shadow once more. He growled. "You don't seem to get it," he began with a snarl. "You can't hold me here. I am too strong." "Who says I'm trying to hold you?" Shikamaru asked with a smirk on his face. "I'm just placing you in my trap." The man's eyes widened when he heard the sound of burning paper. He scanned the area with his eyes and growled when he noticed that he was completely surrounded by explosive tags. "This won't do anything to me," he exclaimed in rage. "I will kill you brats. My master gave me the most powerful bloodline in the world. I won't die, I can't die." "You're finished," Shikamaru stated as the explosive tags exploded around the man. The man's screams of pain echoed through the area, making Kiba and Akamaru look away from the blast. Fire consumed the area and the man's screams ceased, telling Shikamaru that the fight was over. Smoke filled the area, blocking the man from view, but the smell of burning flesh told the group that they were successful. The smoke soon dispersed to reveal the burnt body of what had been a sound ninja. They had been successful. "It's over," Shikamaru stated with a sigh of relief, glad to be done with the first part of their mission. Shino nodded in agreement. "It would be best if we rest before completing the next part of the mission," he suggested with a hint of hope on his voice. "That sounds good, right, Akamaru?" Kiba asked, receiving a happy bark from the small dog. "There's no need for breaks," Lee shouted in determination. "We can go without rest for the rest of the mission. If we can't, then I'll walk to Konoha on my hands." Shikamaru sighed. "We have to meet the other team tonight. The meeting spot is close by, so we'll be able to take a rest," he stated with a yawn. "Let's get out of here. We'll make camp and rest for a few hours. If the other team's base was anything like the one we were assigned to, then I know for a fact that they'll take a rest too." The group nodded in agreement. Shino supported Lee, since his leg wasn't fully healed, before the group of ninja leapt away from the area. It had been a hard mission and they only hoped that the next base wouldn't be as bad as the first. Naruto stood on a tree branch with his invisibility jutsu up. He had a clear view of his team from this area and knew that he had to help them somehow, but charging at an enemy was not smart. He would need a diversion in order to get the drop on them, but what? "He's here." Naruto froze and cursed for not hiding his chakra signature like he was supposed to. He would need to fight or else his team would be hurt. It didn't make things better to have his whole team outside with them. "Wait a minute, that's it," he thought with a grin on his face. "They're all outside. Come on out, kid." Isamu yelled with a smirk on his face, glad to fight the Chunin once more. "If you don't, then I'll key dash." Boom! An explosion rocked the area as half of the mountain became enveloped in a series of explosions. Chunks of rock, metal, even trees sailed through the air due to the power of the explosion. A powerful wind from the blast rocked the area, making the group of ninjas shield their eyes from the incredible blast. The two sound ninjas stood motionless. Their base had been destroyed and all of their master's research was ruined. They swore to themselves to kill the group of ninja that had destroyed their master's work. They only lived for their master and would gladly die for him. No brat would get away with such an insult. Ino watched the explosion in fear, hoping that Naruto hadn't been caught in it. "Please be all right," she muttered to herself in worry. She frowned when she noticed something. A shadow moved through the smoke in a fast pace. "What's that?" "I'll kill them all," the woman exclaimed in rage as she turned her attention to Ino and Shoji. "I'll start with you too." Ino ran through hand signs but suddenly felt dizzy. Her heart fell. She was out of chakra. Having kept the woman in place for too long had certainly taken its toll on her reserves. She glanced at Shoji and gritted her teeth. Her friend was in no better condition. The only way to fight back would be without chakra, but she wasn't good at hand-to-hand combat. The woman walked towards Ino before running through hand signs. She pointed her palms at Ino and smirked. "This is where you die." "Earth style, Earth Dragon Jutsu," she exclaimed as a human-sized dragon shot off of the ground and launched at Ino, who could only watch helplessly as the attack approached her. Before the attack could make contact, a blur appeared before Ino and stopped the attack with its hand. The Earth Dragon was instantly destroyed, revealing Naruto standing in front of Ino with a spinning sphere on his right hand. "And Naruto," Ino muttered in disbelief, tears forming on her eyes. "It's you!" Isamu exclaimed with a smirk on his face. "Now we can end our fight." The Jinchuriki turned his face to the other sound ninja, his Rasengan dispersing. His fists clenched. This was the woman that had almost killed Ino, his most important person. The woman flinched when she took a good look at the kid. He had blue slit eyes, deep whisker marks on his cheeks and fangs peeking out of his mouth. "You damned bitch," Naruto growled in pure fury, making the woman wince at the tone. "You'll pay for trying to hurt Ino." The woman got over her shock and smirked. "What are you going to do about it, brat?" she taunted. "I'll kill you and your little whore in a second." Violent blue chakra mixed with demonic red flared around the Jinchuriki. He phased from view only to appear in front of the woman, making her feel something other than fury, fear. The Jinchuriki placed a hand on her stomach and focused his chakra. The woman's eyes widened at the feel of pressure building up in her stomach. "Rasengan," he muttered as the attack came to life and drilled into her abdomen, making her cough up blood before being launched away from the Jinchuriki. She crashed against a tree with a gaping hole on her stomach. The woman fell on the ground dead, not being able to take such an attack. Naruto didn't look fazed as he turned his attention to Isamu. The sound ninja only smirked in amusement. The Chunin was proving to be really interesting. "Thanks you for that," Isamu said in amusement. "You don't know how much I hated her." Choji watched Naruto in slight fear. He had never seen him act cold-hearted before. It was as if Naruto was a whole different person. Niji had similar thoughts but viewed the Chunin in a new light, someone who would do anything to protect his team. His respect for the blonde had increased a considerable amount. Ino watched Naruto in worry. She was afraid of having him use the fox's chakra since she knew that it wouldn't do him any good. He had told her that demonic chakra was red and it was the most dominant color on his chakra at the moment. And Naruto, Ino called out in a quivering voice, trying to be strong for him. "What?" Naruto asked while glaring at the man, ready to spring into action and put an end to his life. "Stop it," she demanded, though a little weak. The Chunin ignored her and took out his blade, infusing chakra onto it and making it expand a few feet. "Stop it, Naruto." The Jinchuriki turned to Ino with a frown on his face. "Why should I? These bastards tried to kill you. Do you think I'll let them off that easily?" he snapped in anger, more red chakra surrounding the Jinchuriki. "I'll kill them all." "This isn't you, Naruto," Ino snapped with tears on her eyes. Naruto's red chakra wavered and began to lessen, seeing the desperation on Ino's face. "You told me that you hate using it. Do you know how it makes me feel to make you do something you hate? Please, Naruto, stop using it. You don't need it. You can protect us without it." Naruto watched as a few tears fell from Ino's eyes. His red chakra began to disappear. She was right. It wasn't really him protecting them, it was a damned fox looking for a fight through him. He felt the burn around his skin and closed his eyes in an attempt to calm the rest of the fury he felt. He opened his eyes to reveal that they were back to their round electric blue. Ino gave him a smile that he returned. He would protect her with his own will. He wouldn't let the fox affect his decisions, and if he really needed to use the chakra, then he would make sure he had mastered it. He turned to Niji and gave him a nod. If they were to take down Isamu, he would need all the help he could get. "Let's fight now," Isamu announced with a smirk. His sword nowhere to be seen and burn marks around his skin, showing that he had been affected by the explosion back at the base. "Let's go, Niji!" Naruto exclaimed as he ran at the sound ninja. Niji ran at Isamu from the opposite side while channeling chakra onto his palms. Isamu smirked at the challenge and jumped in the air before slamming his feet on the ground. The earth began to shake before large spikes of rock came out of the ground. The two-leaf ninja jumped in the air in order to avoid the attack before Naruto turned to Niji and gave him a firm nod. 8 trigrams palm rotation. Niji exclaimed as he landed on the ground, destroying each earth spike around him. Naruto landed next to him and ran through hand signs. Isamu saw this and charged at them, keen on stopping the jutsu. As he got closer, Niji charged at him in a fury of open palm attacks. The sound ninja was forced to dodge from the speed of the strikes. Niji just wouldn't let up his attacks. "Now, Niji!" Naruto exclaimed as Niji gave one last strike before jumping away from Isamu, wind style, devastation. A powerful wind came out of the Chunin's mouth, taking rocks with it and launching at the Sound Ninja. Isamu smirked and jumped away from the attack. His improved physical ability had increased his skills several times. His thoughts were interrupted when Niji launched at him with his arms held back. The man smirked and threw a punch at the genin, who used both hands to block the attack with a wince at the strength behind the punch. Niji was pushed back by the force and flipped in the air before landing on the ground. Isamu landed on a tree branch and suppressed a groan when he saw clones all around him. He raised a brow when he saw that all clones had kunai on their hands. The small army of clones threw the kunai before extending their palms. Wind style, gale palm, the clones exclaimed as the kunai gained a tremendous amount of speed. Isamu frowned and jumped away from the barrage of projectiles, but not before a few kunai embedded themselves to his right leg, making him wince in pain. He landed on the ground with a cry of pain at the feel of pressure on his leg before he reached down and ripped out the kunai, one by one with an angry look on his face. "I got you!" Naruto yelled as he ran at the man with a Rasengan on hand. Isamu smirked and ran at the Chunin with one of the kunai on hand. Before the Rasengan could hit, the Sound Ninja threw the kunai at the Leaf Ninja, landing right between his eyes. Poof! The smirk on Isamu's face vanished and snapped his head to the right at the sound of footsteps. Niji charged at him, intent on finishing the fight. The Sound Ninja slammed his hands on the ground, making an earth spike appear right in front of the Hyuga. Niji could do nothing as he ran into the spike, his chest being pierced. Poof! Another clone! Isamu snapped in disbelief. Two giant hands suddenly wrapped around him, keeping him in place. "Up here, you idiot!" Naruto exclaimed from high in the air as he dived towards the immobilized Isamu. The Sound Ninja began to struggle against the hold but found that the genin was too strong. The Chunin extended his right hand, swirling chakra turning into a sphere. "This is it for you." "No, damn it. Let me go, you freaking kid." Isamu screamed at Choji in an attempt to break free of the grasp. Rasengan! Naruto yelled as the attack made contact with Isamu's skull. The force of the attack forced the man's body to dig into the ground, in a show of pure power. The Rasengan met the ground in a small explosion, kicking up a cloud of dust and blocking the Chunin from view. Niji panted as he leaned against a tree, most of his chakra gone. Did he do it? He asked himself. The smoke cleared to reveal Naruto kneeling on the ground next to a hole that had been filled by the rubble the attack had caused, making a burial of kinds. He turned to his friends and gave a wary smile. They had finally finished with the first base. Ino walked over to Naruto with a small smile. "You did it," she said with a proud look on her face. "I told you that you didn't need to use it." "Right," Naruto agreed with a chuckle before standing up with a bit of trouble. It was all thanks to Choji getting back into the fight at the last minute. Choji grinned. "I just held him, I didn't do much," he said with a chuckle. "It seems we're finally done," Niji said with a weary look on his face. "Now all we have to do is meet with the other team and get to the next base." "Yeah." Naruto sighed out with a tired look of his own. Summoning clones that could use jutsu, the weak ones, took a toll on his reserve save for the clone that had been running with a rock hinged as a Rasengan. Right now he probably had about 1/4 of his chakra left. To some it might be too much, but since his body was accustomed to such an enormous amount of chakra, he felt extremely drained. "Let's take a break first though." "Sounds good," Ino said with a smile on her face, "but before we do that." She took hold of Naruto's shirt and pulled him into a quick kiss, stunning everyone. The Chunin got over the shock and returned the kiss. It was just like the first except that they were both more comfortable with it. It was still an innocent kiss with a bit of curiosity and the warm feeling of the affection they held for each other. The two broke the kiss and smiled at each other. "Now I'm ready for my break." "Me too," Naruto agreed with a smile on his face as he took Ino's hand and walked away from the base. He turned his head back to the rest of the team and grinned. "Let's go, guys. I saw a lake close to here, we can rest there." Niji and Choji stared at each other with looks of shock. Did we miss something? Night fell on the quiet forests that stretched around the land of fire. Shikamaru, Shino, Lee and Kiba leapt from tree to tree, hoping to make it to their destination soon. Soon after their break, they had set off again. Lee's and Kiba's wounds had been patched up with the little medical knowledge the group had. The other two hadn't been too hurt aside from having a light case of chakra exhaustion and were okay to travel after a quick rest. As of now, they were getting closer to the western border of the Land of Fire. They had passed many small rivers and Shikamaru instantly knew that they were almost to the Land of Rivers, where one of the Sound's bases was said to be. It bothered the Chunin to have been assigned with such a mission since he didn't think that they were really ready since their conflict with Sound could be seen as a kind of war. Shikamaru shook his head, getting rid of those thoughts. He was close to his destination and he had no more time to think on the matter. "We're stopping here," he suddenly declared, breaking the utter silence that surrounded the forest. He landed on the ground with no trouble and turned to his team, watching him do the same. A frown appeared on his face when he noticed the wince on Lee's face when landing. "Why here?" Shino asked in a calm voice. They had stopped in a small clearing near a cliff with a river running on the bottom of it. A waterfall could be heard in the distance but couldn't be seen due to the darkness of the night. Shikamaru crossed his arms and sighed. "We're waiting for another team to show up, remember that," he stated with a tired look on his face. "There's no doubt that they have a tracker ninja or someone with those kinds of abilities on their team. We're close to the next base and this spot is hidden from where it supposedly is, yet will still be visible to the other team." Lee grinned. "A much youthful decision," he praised in his usual cheerful voice. "It always warms my soul when a ninja thinks of others first. Such an active youth. Such a beautiful flame." "Calm down already," Kiba growled in an annoyed tone as he nursed his ears. Having been standing next to Lee hadn't been one of his brightest ideas. Akamaru barked in agreement as it jumped to Kiba's head. "But such an active youth demands praise," Lee argued with a frown. "Enough," Shikamaru sighed out, "we're supposed to be quiet or else we'll be spotted." "He's right," Shino agreed as he leaned against a tree, still feeling a little fatigue from the earlier fights. "Who are we waiting for anyway?" Kiba asked with a cocky grin. "I bet they aren't stronger than us, but let's just hope that they'll be able to keep up." Shikamaru sighed once again, his assigned team already getting on his nerves. The Hokage chose the teams. He began with his gaze on the star-filled sky, slightly disappointed at the lack of clouds. "I'm sure that the Hokage sent a group of smart and mature ninja." Naruto and Ino sitting in a tree, sang Choji with a smile on his face. "Will you shut up already?" Naruto and Ino exclaimed with matching blushes on their faces. Choji simply chuckled and turned his gaze away from them with a knowing look, making the two blondes think that telling their friends about their relationship hadn't been a smart idea. Niji simply watched the three ninja with an amused grin. They had been like this for a few hours, and yet he never grew tired of Naruto and Ino's flushed expressions whenever Choji would tease them. It was all good fun and he felt glad to be part of it, not like before when he would look at people in annoyance. "We're almost there anyway, so be quiet," Naruto growled with the blush still on his face. Team Naruto had been on the move for a few hours. They had taken a small break in order to check over each other's wounds and found that Choji was the most hurt, though it was only a few cuts on his back. The rest of the team had suffered from a case of chakra exhaustion, though it wasn't too serious. They were forced to take a rest. Seeing the large number of rivers in the distance, Niji frowned. "Haven't we been here before?" he pointed out with an annoyed expression on his face. "Yeah," Naruto answered with a grin, finding Niji's annoyance amusing. "Then why are we going through here again?" Choji wondered. "Why didn't we just stop here before going to the other base?" Ino sighed. "If I find out that you got the wrong base, you'll regret it, Naruto," she threatened in a tone that made Naruto gulp in fear. "Oh, of course not," he assured with a nervous laugh. "There's a base around here, but we were supposed to take care of it with the help of another team since there's more ninja in this one." "More enemy ninja?" Niji asked with a frown. Naruto's face grew serious as he continued to leap from tree to tree. "Yeah, Hopefully not like the last ones we fought, he stated. Even with the help of another team, I'm sure we wouldn't survive it. Those words brought silence to the team as they continued on their way to the last base. They knew that Naruto was right since they had barely scraped by due to getting surprise attacks on their enemies. If they needed the assistance of another team, then that meant that the next base was more dangerous than the first. They only hoped to be able to return to the village in one piece. Shikamaru yawned as he stretched his body. He sat on a branch of a tree with a clear view of the surrounding area. There was no moon today, meaning that everything was pitch black, with the only source of light coming from the small fire they had going. It had been almost an hour and there was still no sign of the other team. He guessed that the other team had run into some trouble on their base. An irritated sigh left his lips. If they weren't back, then he would need to give them backup somehow. I got something, Kiba suddenly exclaimed. Or not, Shikamaru thought with a sigh of relief, glad to have one less thing to worry about. But it smells familiar. Kiba muttered with his arms crossed. What do you think, Akamaru? The small pup barked in agreement as it smelled the scent that was growing stronger. Maybe it has to do with us being from the same village, Shino suggested. The Inuzuka nodded. That might be it, he said with a thoughtful look on his face. He was sure he had smelt it before, but it was still too faint to tell. Well then, let's go meet up with them, Shikamaru ordered as he jumped off the branch and landed on the ground. We've already wasted enough time, let's just get this over with already. Such determination. Lee praised with a grin on his face. I say we meet up with them. Might as well, Kiba stated with a shrug as he jumped up a tree. Kiba should lead, his nose should be able to guide us, Shino said as he prepared to leave, dispersing the small fire they had going. Right, Shikamaru agreed as he turned to Kiba, let's go. Naruto watched the distant waterfall with a small smile. It reminded him of his first training session with Jiraiya. It seemed so long ago, yet it had been only a month since he first met his master, a very perverted man that held to that perversion with pride. The sage was a very complex person, he had found out. Despite the way he acted, Jiraiya kept many secrets and would rarely give out any sort of hints, and if he did, then they were incredibly complex. He knew for a fact that Jiraiya hid things from him but didn't really question him. If the sage kept his mouth shut, it was for a reason. He dismissed those thoughts. He was in the middle of a mission and couldn't afford to mess up. The team was running alongside a cliff, choosing not to go through the trees this time since the darkness would cover them easily. There was a dense forest to their side, but it ended on the rocky ground that the team was currently in. A river could be seen at the bottom of the cliff and many caves scattered throughout it, though some were barely visible due to the lack of light. From what Naruto heard, this particular base was located in the cliff, meaning that it should be in one of the caves. Several ideas on how to take care of the base had already entered his mind, but they would only work if the base was really where it was supposed to. The Chunin's eyes suddenly narrowed as he skidded to a stop, raising a hand to his team. The three genin stopped on their tracks and looked at Naruto in slight worry. Neji, activate your Byakugan and tell me if you see anything, he ordered with a frown. Veins appeared around Neji's eyes, showing the activation of his bloodline. The Hyuga narrowed his eyes when he spotted 4 chakra signatures going straight at them. There's 4 of them, but... he informed with a little hesitation. Ino frowned when she noted the slight hesitation on Neji's voice. But, she asked as she motioned him to continue. I'm not sure, but from the looks of it I'll say 3 of them have genin level chakra while 1 of them is around Chunin level, Neji stated with a frown. So what's the big deal? Choji asked. We're around the same level, so it'll be easy to beat them. That's exactly it, Naruto pointed out with his gaze never leaving the dense forest. If they're around our own level, then they're probably the team we were supposed to meet. So what do we do? Ino asked with a sigh. Wait. Neji began with his Byakugan, still looking ahead. There's 1 more chakra signature, though small. How small? Naruto asked with a raised brow. Neji shook his head before breaking into a smirk. Inuzuka dog small, he stated with a hint of relief on his voice as he deactivated his Byakugan. Good, the Chunin sighed out. let's wait for them here since we're closer to the base. I have arrived, came a loud cheerful voice from the woods. Lee jumped out of the woods and landed in front of the group, with a light wince. I take it you're part of the backup team? Neji assumed with his arms crossed. Yes I am, Lee said with a grin on his face. It's good to see you all made it. Ino smiled, happy to see a familiar face. Of course we made it, she stated with a smug look. We have the best team of the village, there's no way we'll be beaten. What are you talking about? A voice came from the woods as Kiba, Shikamaru and Shino landed in front of them. When you say best team, I'm pretty sure you mean us. Whatever dog breath, Ino responded with a frown on her face. Why you? Kiba growled in anger. Ino had always been a person he really couldn't stand. Ever since the academy he found her to be annoying for her attitude in general. He crossed his arms with a frown, he was really getting tired of her. It's great to see we get to work with familiar faces, Shikamaru stated with a small smile. You said it, Choji answered with a smile of his own, we get to have Team 10 together for this. So how did your base go? Naruto asked Shikamaru with a grin. The lazy Chunin sighed. It was way too troublesome. So troublesome that I don't want to even talk about it now, he sighed out, remembering the trouble they went through. What about you guys? Naruto chuckled and crossed his arms. It was hard, but we managed, he admitted with a small smile. How should we go about the next base? Shino wondered out loud. Neji nodded in agreement. It's best to think of a plan beforehand, he said, throwing a glance at the ever-impatient Lee. Well, I was thinking of Naruto started but was interrupted when Kiba busted out laughing, finding the turn of events to be funny. Are we really taking ideas from Naruto? He asked, putting emphasis on the Chunin's name. He was the dead last of the academy, why are we taking orders from him? I admit that he's strong, but he's still an idiot. The loser can't even lead Choji to a bag of food and you expect him to come up with a plan? That's enough. Ino yelled with a glare at the Inuzuka. The fool had just insulted two very important people to her and she wouldn't stay quiet. What makes you think you can talk to them like that? They are twice the shinobi you'll ever be. Just for the record, Naruto is the Chunin here, not some flea-infested mutt. Kiba growled in anger, she had just gone too far. Nobody insulted him and got away unscratched. He snarled before taking a step towards Ino but stopped when he felt a hand grip his shoulder. He growled and turned to see Shino standing behind him, shaking his head in disapproval. What gives, Shino? Why did you stop me? He asked in annoyance. Shino simply pointed ahead of them to the blonde Chunin that glared at Kiba with his right fist clenched, ready to fight if need be. I was not stopping you, rather, I was preventing you from being badly hurt, he stated, remembering how the blonde had defeated Gaara. You're lucky you didn't take another step. Naruto simply glared at Kiba, daring him to take another step towards Ino. The mutt would be unconscious before he could even reach her. He suddenly felt a hand on his own. He turned to see Ino with a sad smile on her face. She squeezed his hand reassuringly, telling him to calm down. He sighed, deciding that starting a fight with Kiba would only endanger the mission. Fine, he muttered as he turned to Ino and gave her an apologetic smile. Ino smiled back and gripped his hand a little tighter. Shino let go off Kiba's shoulder and watched as his teammate relaxed. The Inuzuka looked a little mad, but Shino knew that he wouldn't do anything stupid again. Naruto was clearly stronger and wouldn't hesitate to attack Kiba if he threatened to hit Ino. How do we handle the next base? Shikamaru cut in, trying to lighten the situation before it got out of hand. My team tried to use stealth, but we ended up failing badly. The blonde Chunin sighed before turning to Shikamaru. Let's just end this already, he deadpanned. I don't think that we'll need to place any explosive tags inside the base since we can just destroy it by blowing part of the cliff off. If we want to do this right, then we have to finish with the base before the enemy has time to even know what's going on, while at the same time making them look away from our real objective, getting the information we need. Why don't we just have someone look for the research papers while someone distracts the enemy ninja outside? That should give the chance to enter the base undetected because they'll be focused on the fight. That sounds like a smart plan. We can't afford to risk sneaking through the base since they could have tracker ninja. Shikamaru agreed with a nod. Any ideas on who's going into the base? Naruto nodded. I think that you and the rest of Team 10 should go in, with Kiba. He has good tracking skills and he'll be able to find an exit fairly fast, he suggested with his hand still gripping Ino's. I'll be able to hold off the enemy ninja with Neji, Lee, and Shino. We have the high ground, so it'll be easy. That does make sense, Shikamaru muttered with a serious look on his face, thinking of any other options before letting out a tired sigh. Fine, let's do it your way. We'll contact you when we're done. When are we moving? Ino rolled her eyes when she saw the determination in Naruto's eyes. He was just too impatient, despite how much he had changed. I guess that's what makes him Naruto, she mused with a small smile. I bet he's about to say dash. Right now, Naruto announced with a determined grin on his face. Why should we wait anyway? The faster we get through this the better. I'll go tell Choji, Ino informed, knowing that Naruto would probably want to continue talking to Shikamaru. Naruto watched Ino leave with a small smile. He turned to Shikamaru and his face grew serious. I really didn't want Kiba going into the base with Ino, he stated. Shikamaru nodded in agreement, knowing that Kiba wasn't on the best of terms with her. I want you to take care of her. I know it was selfish of me, but I put you and Choji with her so that you could watch over her. Shikamaru sighed with a grin. She's important to us too, he said. I see her as a sister and Choji does too. There's no need to worry about her, we'll make sure she's safe. Thanks Shikamaru, Naruto responded with a smile, feeling a lot better to know that Ino would have someone watching over her. He knew that she was capable of defending herself, but he couldn't help but feel worried. Good luck, he said with a grin. What do we need luck for? Shikamaru said with a grin. We'll be running around the base, you're the one that'll have to deal with the sound ninja. Line break. Sometime later Naruto, Neji, Lee and Shino stood on top of the large waterfall that overlooked the cliff, waiting to make their move. According to their simple yet dangerous plan, they had to make a big diversion that would alert most of the ninja at the base. It was no surprise that Naruto would handle this part of the mission, big entrances being his old specialty. How are you going to get their attention? Neji asked, turning his gaze to the Chunin. A foxy grin made its way to Naruto's face as he took out a single kunai. We'll just knock on their door, he explained as he wrapped an explosive tag around the kunai's hilt. Get ready. With a flick of his wrist, the kunai sailed through the air in a fast speed. The four ninja watched as the projectile headed for the lower part of the cliff, not wanting to bury the base before the other team could look around it. As the kunai grew closer to the cliff, Naruto took out his blade, Neji activated his Byakugan, Lee got into his taijutsu stance and Shino gathered bugs on his arms. Boom! The kunai crashed against the cliff in a loud explosion that caused many boulders to break off of it. In an instant a sound ninja came out of one of the caves, looking around for any intruder. His eyes landed on the group of leaf ninja and instantly called for backup. Naruto watched as more and more enemy ninja came out of the caves around the cliff. They jumped on the river before charging at them with the intent to kill. Let's go, the Chunin ordered as he jumped off the waterfall with a kunai held on his left hand. His team jumped after him, ready to fight. The Chunin watched as more sound ninja came closer and threw the kunai at the side of the cliff with a whizzing sound. The kunai exploded against the top part of the cliff, making a small landslide. Boulders and sand fell from the cliff, towards the oncoming group of ninja. Scatter! One of the sound ninja ordered as they tried their best to dodge the boulders. The apparent leader moved through the boulders easily but found himself unable to dodge a particularly large boulder. He raised his fist and punched at the rock, shattering it to thousands of pieces as if it were nothing. The group of leaf ninja landed on the river with ease and looked at the mess they had caused. Rocks were being carried away by the current while some boulders were sticking out of the water. A crimson color could be seen in the water and a much shorter number of sound ninja charged at them in fury. Naruto watched the leader with a frown, he would prove to be trouble. The man had a tall and lean body with short brown hair, black eyes and a scar running from his forehead to his jawline. He looked strong, but he still had tricks up his sleeve. Shadow Clone Jutsu, the Chunin exclaimed as 10 clones appeared at his side. Do it now, guys. The 3 genin took out 2 kunais each and launched them at the group as the group of Naruto clones ran through hand signs, wind style, gale palm. A stream of wind came out of each clone's palms, making the kunai go even faster. The group of sound ninja was taken aback by the speed of the kunai and stopped on their tracks before jumping away from the incoming projectiles. The leader stood behind his group of ninja, glad to see that they had dodged the attack. What? He asked himself as he narrowed his eyes on the water. His eyes widened. There were shadows in the water. Look out from behind. 3 Naruto clones jumped out of the river, catching each of the kunai in hand. The group of sound ninja could do nothing as the clones launched the weapons at them, with the light sound of burning paper. One of the ninja's eyes widened when he saw the burning tag on the kunai. They were all explosive. Boom! The kunai exploded against the group of sound ninja, kicking up a large cloud of smoke. The leader of the sound ninja frowned. His ninja had been easily fooled by a surprise attack. He couldn't blame them though, he had been almost fooled himself. Those sound ninja had been around genin level, nothing but trash in his opinion. He was actually glad that some of those weaklings had died. He would much rather fight without them, but some things seemed a little off. He didn't understand why a group of leaf ninja would attack so openly. It didn't make sense. They would usually attack as discreetly as possible. He was sure that they had some kind of plan, but he had no idea what it was. The smoke cleared to reveal Naruto standing next to his team with his blade on hand. The sound ninja frowned. It had been a group of kids that had been able to take out a platoon of ninja as if they were nothing. One of them had a Chunin jacket on, meaning that he was the leader of the group of kids. Things made more sense now. Kids like to show off their skills without really thinking. It was rare for young ninja to have plans, but he wouldn't take it easy on them. He would go all out. I guess I should applaud your performance, but surprise attacks are the only way leaf shinobi attack like the cowards they are, the sound ninja said with a frown on his face. The green-clad ninja frowned, but the rest of the team seemed to keep their emotions in check. You're no ordinary bunch. I'll have fun killing you. Black marks stretched around the man's face, making Naruto's eyes widened. Those are the same markings as Sasuke, he thought with a frown on his face. He remembered that Sasuke's abilities would increase overall, but it would make him paranoid. Maybe this base would actually hold some information. I'll kill you here and now, he announced with a smirk on his face as his marking began to meld together, making his skin turn a light black color. His eyes turned black with yellow irises, his hair turned gray and grew up to his mid-back, fangs came out of his lips and 2 bat-like wings came out of his back. Remember this, brats. He began in a much deeper voice as a vile purple chakra swirled around him. A whirlpool formed beneath his feet from the intensity of the chakra. He began to flap his wings, kicking up strong winds that pushed the group of ninja back. The sound ninja broke into an evil smirk. I am Katsu. One blessed with the powers of Lord Orochimaru. I will prove myself to him and kill you.